everybody. My name is Joe Daraskovich. I work for the Duval County Medical Society, and one of my roles is to connect with the resident and fellow community throughout the area. And so part of that is the DCMS Residence Committee. That's a group of residents and fellows from around the area that come together and tackle some big issues and kind of discuss things that are going on in their hospitals. And they come together to come up with initiatives and come up with just new things that can kind of engage the resident community here. So a big thing we have coming up, and we actually had a meeting last night with the residents committee to talk about life after residency and fellowship. And if you haven't heard anything about it, that is a program we do in January. This year it's going to be January 18th at A Loft Hotel right there at the corner of Southside Boulevard and Gate Parkway. And it's all about the business of medicine. It's all about what you need to know when you start your full-time careers. So what we're going to have is roundtable discussions with some experts from all sorts of industry, but also some physicians who've been in your shoes, who've been down this path before, and they can give you advice on all sorts of things, whether it's if you're deciding whether you want to go private practice versus a hospital system, etc. So just to give everybody an idea of what it'll be like, I wanted to bring on someone today who will be there in person to talk all things finance. So let me introduce him. His name's Zach Cohen. Zach, what are you all about? What's your background?
So Zach Cohen, I own Cohen Wealth Advisory. I've been in the wealth management, financial planning business for close to 15 years. I decided a few years ago that it was time to operate under my name, and I set up Cohen Wealth Advisory as an independent firm. I worked on the corporate side with an institution when I first got started, got my feet wet, and I understood quickly that it was important for me to go out on my own and be independent, so I wasn't tied to a particular institution. I didn't have any particular contracts to meet, and that way I could just advise as far as what's in the best interest for my clients. So I've been working with doctors for over a decade, from risk management, helping them with setting up their insurances, coordinating various debt decisions, wealth management. I live in the stock market, seeing what's going on in the economy, and ultimately figuring out ways to help my clients grow their wealth, but also protect it at the same time.
And I've met Zach. We've emailed back and forth a few times. We met a couple weeks ago, and he's extremely approachable. We just got together and kind of talked about what life after residency and fellowship would look like. And so that's another big thing that the residents who were planning this initiative wanted to get some approachable people, some people that could answer questions, point blank. So just to give everybody an idea of what types of questions Zach can be able to answer at the Life After Residency, we're going to hit on three topics today. Let Zach kind of break them down for you at kind of a distance. He won't get too into the weeds here, but you can ask specifics come January 18th. So Zach, let's jump right in and let's cover interest rates a little bit. What's going on with interest rates and how do you stay on top of that?
Yeah, so a lot's happening right now in the economy. President Trump reelected. The Federal Reserve started cutting interest rates in September. They felt like they had their hand on the pulse of CPI or inflation, bringing it back down to their target percent of 2%. I ask everyone, do you feel like your inflation rate right now is at 2%? And the consensus is absolutely not, Joe. Everyone's getting their auto renewal rates and they're looking at mortgage rates right now. That inflation we deal with in our everyday lives just to get any quality food, uh, ridiculous. But so the Federal Reserve cut interest rates, and people were calling me saying, "Well, how come mortgage rates are going?" And I think it's important for people to note that mortgage rates are tied into long-term bond yields, the 10-year Treasury yield, and the market is dictating those rates. So what the market is saying is, hey, we see a lot of growth happening. Our expenses are only increasing, and if we're going to treasuries right now, we demand more yield. So when the Federal Reserve cut interest rates, the Fed funds rate back in September, and again this past month, the 10-year Treasury yield actually spiked up from like 3.5 to 4.5% in a month, and mortgage rates are still sitting at 7%. And that's strictly because people demand more yield to hold U.S. Treasuries. So this dynamic is important. The Fed funds rate is more tied into short-term interest rates, auto loans, credit cards. But for residents, doctors that are looking at real estate and their student loans, that's more tied to longer-term interest rates and the 10-year bond yield. So I think it's very important to understand that dynamic.
Well, and Zach, another interesting thing that just comes to mind is, you're keeping track of all these different moving parts and moving things, and clearly you're catering, what your different clients need for their specific situations. So, I mean, that's kind of a nice thing that, like you said, you broke away from a bigger firm, and sometimes when you go with those bigger firms, it's kind of a rubber stamp, and you kind of move on, but clearly you're keeping track of everything. You got your eyes on gold. You got your eyes on all sorts of things, not just one specific thing, right?
Yeah, ultimately, I want to figure out ways to make my clients money, and help them save money. So, really, watching the economy, watching the market, thoroughly, and how everything's tied together, so that we can figure out opportunities. That's important. And so, uh, I cover it all for the clients because I know that the doctors, they really are spending so much time invested in their medical specialty, and they don't really have time to really do deep dives into the market. So anything that I can take off their plates, whether it's looking over their auto insurance to make sure they're saving as much money on their auto renewals. I don't sell auto insurance, but that affects their net worth and it can help free up cash flow. To what opportunities are presenting themselves in the markets right now. So you mentioned gold and silver. The S&P is up 25% year to date. Gold is up 40%. Silver's up 50%. And so there's opportunities in the commodities markets, that people may not be aware of. And so, I like to have these conversations with clients.
Yeah, that's great. Well, speaking of things that are really specific to residents and fellows and doctors in general, the next topic I want to get into is disability insurance. I mean, is that
Mm.
something you're pretty familiar with, I guess?
Yeah, so disability, I know these conversations are happening in the residency programs. The importance of disability insurance is its income protection. So it protects, in any event of an illness or injury that could potentially keep a professional doctor from being able to do their work or usual duties. This protects against disruption of cash flow. So I can do a really good job, growing wealth, but if I'm not protecting it, then it doesn't matter. Uh, what's important about disability insurance is that one, you're with a solid company. I take enough risk in the markets. I like to be able to rely on a solid insurance company that 20, 30 years from now, they're going to be able to pay claims for the clients. Specific to doctors, you know, what requirements do they need to meet to satisfy a claim for disability insurance? Make sure that it covers your medical specialty. There's a few contracts that have the most clear language that covers medical specialty. So if an orthopedic surgeon can't perform their usual duties, but maybe they can go back to work as a radiologist, the insurance company is going to pay, even though they're earning income as a radiologist. Or if a radiologist can't do their usual duties as a radiologist, but they can go be a professor at the medical school, they want a contract that's going to allow them to get paid outside their specialty and still pay their total disability benefit tax free. And there's a lot of other ins and outs of disability contracts. I'm not going to get into the weeds today, but life after residency is going to provide that platform where people can ask these questions.
You were talking about all those good examples of ortho docs not being able to do their normal their duties, and we had some great
Yeah,
examples there. I
I
just want you to hit on how people can get in touch with you real quick. Like if obviously
So the
they'll.
firm's name, Cohen Wealth Advisory. You can find my website online, and there's ways to submit a form through the website to schedule a meeting. I'm a small firm. I like to keep it that way so that I can really develop strong relationships with the clients. The phone number for the office is 904-674-3387. Zach at cohenwealth.com. Very easy, but you can look me up and find my website and connect with me through that.
And that's Zach, Zach, right?
Correct.
All right.
ZACH. You
Just
got
got
it,
to make
Joe.
sure. You just got to make sure. All
You
right. Well,
got it.
your mic's sounding good again, Zach. Let's
Cool.
touch on that last topic. Obviously, we could get into disability insurance all day, but we're going to try to keep this brief, and people can come up to you at Life After Residency and ask more about that. But
Yeah.
let's talk about cash flow. I mean, obviously, people need to have some cash on hand. What do people need to know about cash flow?
I gave a presentation yesterday in front of 40 residents, and the reality is cash flow is tight right now. Inflation is not 2%. To get any quality food at the grocery store right now, it's ridiculously expensive, and so you know we're seeing our auto renewal rates come in. I showed an amortization schedule on real estate for it was the same amortization schedule I showed back in 2020. So for those of you that aren't familiar with an amortization schedule, it's the ratio between principal and interest that you pay on a debt instrument. So for a $500,000 home in 2020, people were locking in interest rates at 2.75%, and their mortgage payment was around $2,200 a month. Now that same $500,000 today is probably like 750,000. You're paying 7% mortgage rate, so that $2,200 payment is now more like $4,700. This is the reality we're dealing with, and so for residents, I feel like they're just trying to live right now, and what's helpful for them is to gain clarity and perspective on money coming in and money going out. It's helpful to do an income and expense spreadsheet to figure out, what's actually what you're spending, where you can tweak things to maybe save a little bit. Do you have a surplus each month? How much emergency fund should you have on the sidelines? Can you be allocating any savings to an emergency fund right now? Everyone's in their own individual situation, and so that conversation is different for everyone. Do they have goals over the near term to own a home? Should they be uh, putting more money aside for the down payment on the home right now? But cash flow is a really good conversation to have, especially early on, to just start getting everything organized, because life is going to change very quickly for the residents, and they're going to sign an employment contract, and income's going to go up significantly. So it's easier to adjust when they get that big hit and jump in income once they have more clarity today as far as their cash flow.
Well, and that's a good point too. If you're a resident, if you're a fellow out there listening to this, those are some topics that you might want to bring up when you see Zach in person. What should I be stashing away? What should I expect? In the next 5, 10 years. And Zach can give you an honest answer. It's not like he's gonna tell you something that's it's not going to be helpful. He's going to shoot you straight. So. Zach, I think we should wrap up for today. We'll do a couple more of these videos between now and Life After Residency, but just some housekeeping notes. Again, the event's going to be January 18th at Aloft Hotel over there in the Tinseltown area. The committee members are working hard, and these are your colleagues. These are people who are in the hospitals with you in the residency programs, and they're trying to make this as beneficial as possible. So it's going to be a fun day. It's going to be a lot of good knowledge and a lot of good information. But then we're gonna have some social time as well. So it's gonna be a good day, and look for more at the DCMS website, and you can reach out to Zach between now and then if you'd like to. But you can see him in person come January 18th. So Zach, I just want to say thanks for chatting with me today, and like I said, we'll do this again real soon.
Appreciate you, Joe. Always look forward to talking to you, man. It's always a good time.
Yep, sure is. All right, we'll see everybody in January.